So I was born in Hokitika on the South Island West Coast in 1962. The son of Millie and Frank, and I had two elder sisters, Margaret, who's 14 years older than me, and Dorothy, who was 10 years older than me. And so they all had to agree on my name, so that's where the Stephen came from. And I have a middle name, Marmion, which I used to hate as a kid because all the kids at school used to call me Marmite or Marmalade. But Marmion was a great uncle of mine. He's Blessed Columba Marmion. He was a spiritual writer in Western Europe at the beginning of last century. And so now I'm a little more proud of that name. So I did all my growing up in Hokitika. I went to Hokitika Primary School to start off with. In those days, the Catholic schools couldn't afford the primer section of the school. And so I did my first 2 or 3 years of primary school at the local primary school. Then I went to St Mary's Primary School, where I was formed by the Sisters of Mercy. And then my high school was at Westland High School in Hokitika. I think it would have to be being a West Coaster. My great-grandfather and his brother crossed the Hokitika Bar. That's not a pub, that's where the river port, where in 1866 they were seeking gold. And so I'm a third generation West Coaster and very proud of that. There's a saying that you can take the coasters out of the coast, but you can't take the coast out of the coasters. And that's me. So I'd always vowed and declared that I would never go to university and I would never work for the government departments in Hokitika. And I did both within 12 months of leaving school. So I'd really wanted to be a primary school teacher and air traffic controller and didn't get accepted for those, and ended up being trained as a secondary school teacher, which wasn't what I wanted at that time in my life. And so I ended up working for the New Zealand Forest Service in Hokitika. I was there for 3 years and then 2 years in Christchurch, and then we went through the 1987 corporatisation of government departments under Rogernomics, and I ended up working for the New Zealand Forestry Corporation in Timaru as office manager. But they were real formative years in my life, and it's just funny how all these sort of things unfold and become a great blessing in later times. Priesthood was never on my agenda for life. When I was 8 years old, my eldest sister and her husband had their first child, and I wanted what they had. I wanted to be married and have children, and it didn't work like that. So I was working, as I said, for the Forestry Corporation. When I moved to Timaru, I wasn't particularly active in my faith life, but ended up flatting just around the corner from the local church, and there were a couple of young priests there, and I started going more and more regularly. Then one of the priests was preaching and saying, about supermarket Catholics who come and get what they want off the shelf and then you don't see them for the rest of the work. And I got a real good dose of the Catholic guilt and went and saw him and said, well, happy to help with the youth, but I'm really busy, I'm not from here, I'm away a lot. And so that's what he said, well, we haven't got a youth group going, but let's see if there's any other young adults around and start a young adults group. And so that's what happened, and that's where I really started to explore my faith as an adult. And I think that's really important. We actually have to work at our faith, and with this group of young adults we did this. And it was in the midst of that one night I was at Mass, and I'm not a person who has visions all the time, but this night at Mass I did have a vision. I believe I saw Jesus coming on the clouds of heaven, and I knew without a shadow of a doubt priesthood was right for me. I fought with it for quite some while, but everything in my life started to go wrong. And in the end I prayed, well, if it's a priest you want me to be, give me a sign. You shall not put the Lord your God to the test, but there we go. I did it, and the next night, when I got home from work, the phone's going, young priest from the parish saying, "Oh, I've been looking for you for ages, I'm coming round for a coffee." And he came round, sat down, he says, "Have you ever thought of priesthood? I think God's calling you to priesthood." And it just, the thought just didn't go then. And so that was the beginning of it. And I was in the seminary 6 months later.